Hello my stitchy friends, and welcome back to another Stitch with me. Today I'm working on this beautiful design by Vincent Fleming. It's a heaven and earth design, and I'm doing the regular version. The stitch I'm doing is a 1/1 full cross, so I'm just using one strand and I'm working full crosses. And on this particular project, I have adopted the diagonal block method. Now you might have seen a lot of people just working one diagonal line down, and I'm working in blocks, but I'm still working diagonally. And it's just something that I find easier for me than doing a straight line. I don't seem to have the discipline that others do to not go over the actual line that there is when you're doing a diagonal stitch. So giving myself a bit of leeway, and by doing diagonal blocks I can actually feather outside a little bit, so I can do some stitches outside without getting too worked up about it. But I can't seem to do that with a diagonal line. I can't seem to stick to the straight line and not be mischievous and go over. So I'm going to work a little bit today, and let's see how we go. I've completed roughly, I've completed about 8% of this chart, which actually doesn't look like very much once you see how big the chart actually is. But as they say, right, everything is progress. Every little stitch we do is progress. And I'm not working row by row at the moment because this chart has got this area that I'm working in up here, this sky, has got very few colours in it actually. I know it looks like there's a nice blend, but there's only about 4 or 5 colours on the go around these areas. So it seems pretty pointless just going row by row when I can actually do one colour at a time inside these blocks. And that really is sufficient. I mean, you know, I'm working one colour inside this square, and then I will park below, or to the right as well, because I'm moving in both directions. And that just seems to make more sense. Now, if there's a huge amount of colours inside the square, I may just go row by row because I find it's neater at the back. And also just, you know, I make less mistakes doing it that way. So there is actually a little bit more counting to be done, obviously, when you're not doing the row by row method. If you're just doing your random stitches like I'm doing at the moment, then you will have to count, but you don't have to count too much. I just had to get up and go and answer the door there, and that's so frustrating when you're trying to sit down and record a stitch with me, and then suddenly there's a knock on the door. But never mind, let's continue. So there is quite a bit of counting to be done, but it's only within your little square here, so it's not too bad. And you know, even though I say it's only counting within a little square, even that can go wrong if you're feeling tired. You'd be surprised how easy it is just to be one stitch out, and it's usually just something like that which can mess things up, just having like one stitch out. So there's lots of nice colours here that are all pretty much the same. And I'm trying not to keep my threads too long. However, it is difficult when you're in the habit of working a loop start. You tend to have longer threads so that you can double the thread. So you kind of automatically take off a really long piece. But when you're working with one strand, you don't need it to be that long. But again, you forget that you're not doubling the strand over, and So there's no need for such a long strand. So it's going to start looking a little bit gappy like this very quickly, but it all will get filled in pretty soon. Now I have to say, this is a really relaxing stitch. It doesn't seem to feel stressful at all. I think that's also helped. Well, it actually helps me by the fact that I don't have so much bulk at the back of this. And when there's less bulk, you tend to find it less stressful trying to get needles through, etc. That's kind of one of the reasons why I went down from a 25 to a 22, and I halved my strands. So that in itself gave me so much more fluidity in my stitching, because it's so straight and smooth. There's no bumps even at the front because of the fact that it gets so bulky at the back. And I just actually prefer it. And I think if I had started stitching this way, it would have been the way that I would have carried on. But I didn't try the 1/1 a couple of years ago, and I thought the tent would be quicker. But you know what? I don't think the tent is actually any quicker, because there are still a lot of colour changes to be made, no matter what stitch style you do. So it didn't turn out to be quicker, but I did find tent was just quite an interesting way to go. But this sort of way of working does give me a more fluid, more gentle and dainty way of stitching almost. So it does feel a lot softer. So as you can see, I am kind of working in rows here, but I'm just following the directions of the colour. So I'm working my way down in a kind of zigzag with this colour. And I think it will actually be really nice once I get out of the purple sky and get to start using some more of the greens on the haunted house. Well, I don't know if it's haunted, but I just guess that it might be. So as soon as I get to the house, whether it be haunted or not, that's going to be interesting on the right hand side here. So let's think about goals. And I know that many people have set goals for the end of 2021, and do you know what? I haven't made any goals. And the reason is because I actually want to feel like I'm winding down rather than actually being wound up. And by saying wound up, what I mean is I don't want to, let's see, give myself any kind of pressure or stress to achieve any kind of goals or anything. Because I did initially think I might do that, but then I didn't take into consideration the fact that I'm also in the middle of selling a house, and I'm going to start looking for a house. And even though it's very sort of random, my periods of being busy, like sometimes there's nothing to do and other times I'm doing everything at once, and you kind of just go with the flow with these things. I thought it would be best that since I'm going with the manic flow of buying and selling houses, I may as well go with the flow with my stitching, and so that everything then makes more sense. If I start to impose goals and rules with my stitching, and I start to get busy during that week or that time with the other stuff I have to do, then I'm just going to feel like I can't accomplish things, and it's going to get stressful. So I'm just like, okay, I've got 2 hours today. I've not got anything I really need to do in these 2 hours. I'll just sit down and stitch. It's that simple. And in that respect, I'm not actually causing myself any pressure or stress of any kind. And I'm just giving myself that space to be able to stitch as and when I'm able to. And I think that once I've actually moved into my own place and I'm all set up, and this could take probably another 6 months, then I will start to think more about goals again and what do I want to do. So at the moment, it's a free-for-all. It's anything and everything or nothing. This is where I'm at. And I think that's probably the most sensible way to proceed at this point. Because don't forget, it's not just, you know, probably having to run around sorting out paperwork, getting things signed, looking at properties, phoning people, answering emails, all that stuff. And, oh, what have I done here? No. I haven't done that row, have I? So I think I've done a boo-boo already. This is what happens when you're chatting and you're stitching. So I've done 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 rows. And ooh, I did an extra stitch. Do you know what? If I did an extra stitch, is it really going to matter in this particular section? I don't know. But what I am going to do is I'm going to go back 3, I think, 3 or 4 stitches, because that one there is wrong. So it should be, actually I've faffed up the whole lot, haven't I? Let's just take it out quickly. I'm glad you can bear witness to how easily what's going on here? Okay, let's try again. So the frog just visited me there for about 5 minutes. So I've gone back in to restitch the mess that the frog was on his way to fix. But I am back on track. And so I was thinking about the no goals until 2022, until I'm settled in my new place, and then I will think a bit more deeply about what happened here, more deeply about what I want to achieve. Okay, that stitch has gone funny. Sometimes this fabric, this hardanger, can be a teeny bit on the slippy side. It's very smooth, it's a very smooth fabric. I don't like the way that stitch has got so thick there. It can be a very smooth fabric, but there is occasions where threads will slip and there isn't a lot you can do about it. But it is difficult to get a 22 count in anything that's gridded, or even I don't think there is a 22 count either. I'm not sure that I've heard of, but anyway, it's not a huge problem. So setting goals and actually achieving them are two different things. If you can't achieve them, there's no point setting them. If you think you've got a chance, then go ahead. I do like doing that. I do like having certain goals in mind, but I like having them in periods where I know there's going to be a lot of stuff coming up that I need to do, and I'm going to be needed here, there and everywhere. So I'd rather not give myself any headaches whatsoever, and I will actually use my stitching time as my downtime, as my time to de-stress and relax. which is what I think I'm going to need in the coming few months. I'm absolutely certain of it. Now there's something clicking away in my kitchen. I'm not sure what it is. Now, if I just get this square done in the next hour, it does take time to get just even a square done, even when there is no heavy confetti. As you can see, it doesn't take seconds. It's not a quick, fast thing. Although this is going relatively smoothly now, after a few hiccups. Like, even the way that these stitches are all sort of randomized, it does actually make it easier to make a mistake, because if you don't keep count where all the spaces are, you're going to have to frog a few. But to be honest, in this particular section, I mean, it's so random between these colors. I don't think it's going to make the hugest difference, but I still like to, you know, not make mistakes, even if it doesn't make a huge difference. And I just think this particular pattern is going to look stunning when it's actually finished. Although it's going to take a while, but I do think it's going to be quite impressive. And fortunately, I think I have the patience for it as well. I don't expect instant results, so I'm quite happy to just chug along at my pace until I get to the point where I want to be. Now here, I may do these two bottom rows at the same time. So I have still been rotating my projects around. I still find that rather than doing huge chunks on one, I still seem to be leaning towards maybe working on one a day. But since I have about 5 or 6 on the go at the moment, and that's all I have on the go, it's quite easy to kind of rotate them per week. So per each day of the week. So if I've got 5, I can do 1 each from Monday to Friday, and oh, there's a mistake. And then I can say Saturday and Sunday I can just do a free weekend of stitching whichever I like, or if I want to spend the weekend knitting instead, for instance, I can do that. So it's just a free weekend completely during the week, and it's mostly in the evenings now. I don't generally stitch in the mornings. I probably settle down to stitch around 5 p.m. In the morning, I'm either doing housework or I'm out and about in the town, generally rushing about the place. So for me, I like to kind of get my dinner cooking and then sit down and do some stitching whilst I'm waiting for that to cook. And then doing some serious stitching after that. Okay, we're on to another colour here, which is another purple. What a surprise. So I think that kind of works for me as far as rotation goes. And it's also why I'm quite reluctant to add more new starts, because if I have more new starts than there are days of the week, it starts to get a bit of a pain. And I'm talking personally here for my particular liking. If my rotation starts to get too large, it starts to get overwhelming, and I feel like I'm never going to finish anything, ever, if it gets a bit crazy. And I know there's people that can handle it, and that's great, but I like to have just as much as like a handful that I can deal with. So there won't be any new starts for me, except for maybe a new start by Mirabilia next year. But I haven't even slapped a date on that one because of my impending house moving saga, which seems to be impending for ages now, because I'm still kind of sifting through the paperwork and stuff. But very soon it will be all go. So yeah, there's no date set for that particular new start. But hey, you know, I am not in a rush even to do the new start. I'm really learning to be more patient about stuff and to take things in my stride. And I have all my bits and pieces. I have my fabric, I have my flosses, I have my chart. I'm just waiting. Well, not really waiting even, because I'm just getting on with the ones I'm doing. But when I feel like it's an opportune time, then I will start the Mirabilia. But right at this moment, I haven't actually had that urge as yet. Because I've just recently started Dress of Daydreams by Josephine Wall, and I've done a little bit more progress on that one. So I want to carry on with that one. Actually, I want to carry on with all the 5 that I have, 5 or 6 that I have currently in my rotation. I just want to keep working on them for the time being. And then I will slip in my new one when I feel that I've got a bit more good progress on some of these. So that's really where I'm at for the end of this year. And Christmas plans, I'm not really a planny kind of person. You know what, I'm really the kind of person that doesn't plan very much unless I have to, like obviously travel and stuff like that I will plan. apart from that, I just go with the flow and I take each day as it comes. And I'm generally that kind of person that just wakes up and thinks, oh, today I'm going to put up my Christmas tree, or I'm going to go Christmas shopping, or I'm going to do this or that. That is generally what I do. I just don't really plan a lot of stuff. I guess I just like to go with how I feel and what I'm up for. So I'm really enjoying just being chilled and sitting back and stitching and stuff like that until I'm required to do other stuff. But I mean, generally what I foresee is a particularly quiet Christmas, which is great for me because I don't want to be stressed out of my head with loads and loads of plans. So I'm quite happy if my Christmas is a quiet one at least, because then I will be ready for all the house hunting rigmarole, which will likely follow that. Now, trying to find a place to catch my thread at the back. And that is how I fill in one block on this diagonal that I'm doing. And I really do envy those people that do the beautiful straight line, because I just don't have the discipline to ignore those stitches on the other side. And then it kind of, and I'm not, I kind of, my brain just doesn't seem to enjoy straight lines like that. It just doesn't seem to compute with me. I kind of do get all the counting wrong and I end up having to frog. Oops, come on there. So really this square is not much different to the other few squares that I've done here. There's no big revelations, guys, nothing exciting just yet, but I promise you there will be. There will definitely be some more exciting stuff to see once I get past this crazy sky. It's going to get really, really exciting. So there's no other news really in my world. Everything is well, which I'm pleased to report. And I hope to get back to doing some more live streams after Christmas, because I'll have more time to just sit and chill, I think. We can always be hopeful. So really getting into the motion of this now. So it'd be great to hear from you and what you're up to and what you've been up to over Christmas. And do you have any Christmas goals? Is there anything you want to achieve by the end of the year? I think I would just like to see a 50% on any of my whips, but I don't think that's going to be likely. So I'm not even going to stress my brain too much about it, to be honest. But 50% would have been nice. I think the one that I have that would be closest to 50% is the sad fairy chart that I'm doing, but it is so bad confetti wise that I don't see that happening in the next couple of weeks. I'm at something like 35%, so it's going to take an awful lot of stitches to get up to 50%, and I don't want to put myself through the pressure and the stress. So yep, all my goals, my goal slate has been wiped clean until my life is a bit more settled. And just enjoying the stitching for what it is. So basically I'm just picking out one of my projects from my box a day and working on it as and when I can. And if I can't, then hey, you know, I'm not going to cry about it. They are always there waiting for me when I'm less busy. But you know, even if you don't have any new starts, it's really lovely to be able to share other people's new starts and to be able to go in and see what they're starting and how they're getting on. That's just as exciting in a way, to see what other people get up to, even if you don't have any new starts coming up yourself. My last stitch in this square. The other thing about stitching these blocks is it's so much easier to stitch correctly without a grid when you're doing these blocks, because you're only ever doing 10 stitches by 10 stitches down, and you can't really go wrong unless you count to 11 instead of 10, or you count to 9 instead. I mean, that's really the only way you're going to go wrong. But if you park in the right place and you keep a count of those 10 by 10 each time, you don't really need a grid. Now I say that, but yeah, I have messed it up a few times, even doing the 10 by 10. So always just be careful, I think. I've just marked all that off, and I can park my needle down here on the left. And I think that's me done for my little stitching session this morning. I'm going to come back and do another stitch with me soon and chat with you again. So I hope you have a lovely day wherever you are and you're enjoying your crafts and your stitching. And I'd love to hear from you as always. So take care, and I'll see you soon.